Good morning. This is indeed a special events broadcast of a genuine special event. The last total eclipse of the sun over the continent this century. The moon is moving between the sun and the earth and across a relatively narrow strip of the northwestern United States and central Canada. What you are seeing now is a picture taken from the Goldendale Observatory, and it's showing the eclipse of the sun over Portland, Oregon. It is approximately 75% or so of totality. In 13 minutes, it will be total over Portland, and we'll show you a fantastic sight then. Now let's move about 500 miles east to Goldendale, Washington. Oh, no, this is to Helena, I'm sorry. To Helena, Montana. And you see there are some clouds there, and the eclipse is not nearly as total. At about 23 minutes or so from now, it will be total. We have cameras stationed all over the... About 12 minutes or so, Portland is going to go dark. Look at it right now. As you can see it, the eclipse over Portland at the moment is about 75% or so. But Portland is covered with a cloud cover, which is not at all unusual for this time of year. Some people say for almost any time of the year. But very shortly now, Portland is going to go dark because the eclipse, as you see it there now, this picture is from our Goldendale Observatory, which is 100 miles inland, and that is in the state of Washington. It's a remarkably clear picture. It shows approximately, I would say, 75 to 80% of totality. But the interesting thing that we're going to be able to show you is the total darkness that will come over Portland before too long. Well, we're praying for good weather, of course, along the path of the eclipse. We appear to have it by and large. We have correspondents and cameras in Oregon, Washington, and Montana. We're on the ground. We're on top of Mount Hood. We're in a plane over Portland. And the best place for most of you to see the eclipse, and the safest, is where you are right now, in front of your television set. We'll tell you all about it today, including its scientific importance, but first a bit of history. Down through the ages, mankind has reacted in some very strange ways to an eclipse of the sun. Bob Brown has this report.
Seasons were ruled by the sun, and lives were measured by its cycles. It was terrifying to think that the source of each day could be mortally wounded by some dark force that stalked it through the heavens. Before we knew that eclipses would not extinguish the sun, but in fact reveal new secrets about its life, few events could inspire more fear and uncertainty. Imagine that in the days of mythical beasts and giants, a shadow gnaws at the sun. To the ancient Chinese, it was a sign that the sun was being devoured by a dragon, and royal astronomers were assigned to shoot arrows and beat drums to frighten the dragon away. We're told in one legend of two astronomers, Shi and Ho, who were caught unaware by an eclipse and were too drunk to carry out their duties. Although the sun escaped its celestial executioner, Shi and Ho did not escape their earthly one. An outraged emperor had them beheaded. Cambodian myths tell of the monster Rahu, who stole the liquor of immortality, then was attacked by the indignant gods of the sun and moon. Rahu now wanders vengefully among the signs of the zodiac, hurling himself upon the sun and moon when they cross his path, and earning his place in mythology as the demon of eclipses. The darkening sun has often been an omen to interpret, but never to defy. The Lydians and Medes, in the 6th year of an indecisive war, were stopped cold by an eclipse that appeared over their battlefield in 585 BC. They hastily negotiated a peace treaty, and to ensure it, the daughter of the king of the Lydians married the son of the king of the Medes. The structure of Europe was affected by the solar eclipse of May 5th, 840. The Emperor Louis, son of the conqueror Charlemagne, was so panicked by the eclipse that, according to court historians, he died of his fright. His 3 sons warred among themselves for his empire and divided it into what is now France, Germany, and Italy. Literature, too, has treated eclipses as dreaded and depressing phenomena. The poet John Milton wrote, "Oh, dark, 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 amid the blaze of noon, irrecoverably dark, total eclipse, without all hope of day." But Mark Twain had fun with a solar eclipse. In his book, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, the subject of this 1949 Bing Crosby film, his hero is magically transported from the present back to the days of King Arthur. He saves his neck by knowing in advance that an eclipse would occur on the day he was marked for execution.
Now listen, all of you. Unless the king and I and the rest of these prisoners are freed immediately, I shall blot out the sun and it will never shine again.
Save us, almighty sorcerer! Save us! Bring back the sun!
Set the prisoners free! You can come out now.
In 1925, when a January eclipse was visible from Manhattan Island, astronomers had their best chance in history to pinpoint the edge of totality. 69 selected observers were among the crowds that gathered to watch between 72nd and 135th Streets. The delicate edge was 96th Street. The observer on the north side of 96 saw the spectacle of totality. The observer on the south side saw a telltale sliver of sun. Later in the century, the prospect of viewing an eclipse remained so awesome that electronic picture transmission facilities known as television networks even covered them live, interrupting the more dependable fare which many viewers expected. After all, astronomers reminded them, of all the planets in our solar system, Earth is the only one where the jaws of the dragon are so delicately calibrated, where a moon is so precisely sized and spaced as to cover the sun exactly. We can understand the reluctance of armies to fight, and the imaginations of myth-makers, and the power of prophets, stirred by the variations of shadows on a constant sun.
Thank you, Bob. We're back now to a live picture. This is the eclipse of the sun. It is about 95% or so total now, as taken over Portland, Oregon, from our camera in Goldendale, Washington. Let's go to Jules Bergman, who is there now.
Frank, as you can see, the eclipse is virtually complete. We're about 7 or 8 minutes away from totality. This is known as the second phase of the eclipse, and the solar disk is about 85% blotted out by the lunar disk. Shortly, if all goes well and we're not blocked out by clouds, you may begin to see Bailey's beads, faint rims of light jumping up from the solar surface, as matched out by the faint rims of solar light coming through lunar valleys. And there's our problem now, cloud decks soaring through. There are literally thousands of people gathered at this small observatory, and it's almost a ritual feat. Now the cloud, as you can see, have moved away, and you got a clearer picture again.
Jules, it really is a spectacular picture, and I'd just like to remind everybody that what we're really seeing here, that sliver of light that is slowly disappearing behind the clouds there, is not the moon, but it is the sun, and now it's gone. Not because of the total eclipse as yet. That's still a minute or so away, but simply because the clouds have obscured it. Well, we'll have a complete report on the totality of the eclipse over the city of Portland, Oregon in just a moment. Right now, let's pause for this brief message.
This is the Solar Eclipse, an ABC News special, brought to you by the American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
Well, according to my calculations, we have about 3 minutes before the total eclipse of the sun over Portland. But look here now, Portland already is growing dark. We showed you the picture just a few moments ago when it was approximately 75% of totality, and it was quite bright. Now Portland is getting dark because we are approaching in, just a couple of minutes, the time of the total eclipse of the sun over the city of Portland. See all the lights flashing on? I believe this is a picture facing toward the sea, I believe, facing southwest, yes. And in Portland is one of the 2 largest cities really in the path of totality. As the eclipse sweeps across the northwestern part of the United States, it will go across parts of Oregon and Washington. It will just miss Seattle, although Seattle will have a 99% blackout. It'll go across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and then on into Canada. And finally, when the sun sets over Greenland about an hour and a half after the sun rose over the western Pacific, why the eclipse will be over. You can see even more lights coming on now. Let's go to the Goldendale Observatory, and here we see, oh, it is almost total, almost total. Just a fingernail sun. We're accustomed to seeing that, you know, in the moon. But that tiny little arc that you see is the sun almost totally eclipsed by the moon. I'm sorry because of the clouds, but this is the best we can do, and it's not bad. Ooh, it's almost all gone. Just a few clouds moved in. Let's go back to Portland and see if it's getting any... Oh, look at this. Look at this. It's midnight in Portland, and it is just about 12 minutes or so after 8 o'clock in the morning, and the picture we saw a moment ago was from the roof of our affiliate station there. Look at this. It's dark in Portland. It won't last very long there. Actually, it should last 2 minutes and 14 seconds, and you can see people standing around now. At this point, when it is total, is about the only time that it is safe is in fact the only time when it is safe to look at the sun or at the eclipse. Jules, can you can't see Portland from where you are, but I must tell you it's a spectacular sight. It's midnight practically.
Frank,
now we can see, now I believe we're back to your camera, and we see a sliver of the sun, not quite total there yet.
Frank, it's eerie. It's black here, getting to be totally black, darkness at noon or midnight as you called it. People are hushed in what almost seems like a ritual thing that mankind has been silenced by in awe since the beginning of civilization. And we're now just seconds away from totality. Thousands of people gathered around here for this event, which, as I said earlier, is a little bit like the first manned spaceflight in terms of crowds.
Now we're back to Portland, Jules. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Portland is in total eclipse. Oh, we see people out on their balconies. And as I say at last, I believe I saw a flag fluttering there for a moment.
Do you need this light right now?
Just listen to the people. They're applauding it. You know, one of the interesting things about this is that it was overcast in Portland. They haven't seen the sun anyway. But all of a sudden,
Here it
it's
comes
getting
again.
very dark. Can you see it now, Jules?
Yes, it's
yes,
crystal clear, just a tiny trace of it left, as you say. Darkness is, it's so dark you can see the planets and some of the stars on either side. Mercury to the left, which man has never been able to see in daytime, and Venus to the right. And there's just a tiny fraction, a couple of degrees of the solar disk left. The sun is going out, and it's getting darker and darker, and perhaps in the background you can hear the people cheering. Here it goes.
Look at that.
We can almost do a countdown to darkness.
The diamond ring? Is that it, Jules?
I can't see the diamond ring from here.
There.
That's it.
Yes.
Darkness.
Now it's going to last there for approximately 2 minutes. Is that right, Jules?
2 minutes and a few seconds more, Frank. But it is truly awesome. Truly awesome.
Oh.
There's an eerie afterglow light. Now you can begin to see the coronosphere around the sun.
We're back in
Which is
Portland.
a brilliant burst of gases. Can you see that on your scope?
Let's go back, yes. Oh, there it is. Now we can see just the beginning of the corona around the sun, Jules.
We
can
have
see
it
Go
here
ahead.
momentarily.
You have to look closely, but you can just make out the corona around the sun.
Those are white-hot hydrogen gases around the sun.
Jules, I'm just told that at 10 o'clock on the picture, Bailey's beads just disappeared, but I'm afraid I missed them.
More important is, can you see the coronosphere now?
No, we can't see it now. At least I can't. Can you?
I did until a second ago, and the clouds just moved in and blocked it again.
We're back now, Jules, looking at Portland, where we can see sort of a false dawn. You know, it looks like the false dawn, but it actually is the light beginning to come up again over Portland. at least I believe it is, the totality of the eclipse over Portland should now be finished at this point. It was supposed to last until 11:15:27 our time, and it's past that. So if you watch, you will see Portland, Oregon, become light once again.
This is really terrific, really impressive. I've got to tell you, Frank, I've covered 3 eclipses from airplanes, and they're nowhere near as impressive as this.
We have a plane flying around above Portland, Jules, but I think that the pictures are intermittent, you know. They're just not as good as what we've been getting from your point there at the observatory, and also we've been getting these spectacular shots right from in Portland of the city of Portland. I don't know what is more impressive, really, to see the city suddenly go dark or to see that blackout. But boy, the moment at which the totality occurred over Goldendale on the television monitor was just fantastic. Now, where are we?
We are now almost through with the eclipse. We're beginning to come out of it.
Yes.
You can see the sky lightening. This is actually the coronosphere again.
Oof.
If we're lucky, we might see Bailey's beads again, but I think not. They're too difficult to see. And miraculously, the clouds have cleared fairly well to let us see it. Everything we've seen going into the event, we see in reverse coming out.
Yes,
But
Jules.
Yes, Frank.
I just wanted to point out the picture that we have on our screen right now is really very interesting. We are seeing the eclipse, you know, as it loses totality over Goldendale, your spot there in Washington, and we are seeing the Portland skyline, which is beginning to brighten now. And it's amazing how fast, as we look at your picture, how fast the moon seems to be sweeping across the face of the sun.
The sun is also backlighting the clouds here in a fantastic, eerie glow effect. It's just beautiful. Now we're moving more and more back to sunlight. If I had to calculate from midnight, Frank, I'd say it's now 6 a.m.
Yes. Jules,
Sunrise. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, Jules, thank you very much. We have now on our screen here this magnificent picture of the fingernail sun as the eclipse moves on east, and we're going to go now. We have a picture of Portland, Oregon, brightening once again for the second time today, and we're going to move on now to Helena, Montana, where Ron Miller is on top of a hotel there, and the eclipse is due there in about I guess about 4 minutes. But is this Helena? This is Helena. Come in, Ron.
Frank, we're getting lucky. The clouds have been playing tag with the sky all morning, with the sun, I should say. And as you mentioned, we're just a few minutes away from totality. And it's amazing how the temperature has dropped here in the past few minutes as the moon moved in front of the sun. We're going to see a long totality here, almost 2.5 minutes. And during that totality, an area of about 170 miles will be darkened. That's going to happen in just a few minutes, and I'll tell you, there's an amazing feeling of anticipation that's increasing here. It's really exciting, Frank.
I'm sure it is, Ron. Well, we'll be back in plenty of time to see the totality of the eclipse over Helena, Montana. Right now, we want to pause for just a moment. This is Helena, Montana over my shoulder here. It is beginning to get dark there because the total eclipse is only a minute or so away, perhaps even less than that. Let's go to Ron Miller.
Frank, that's the Last Chance Gulch we're looking at. $125 million in gold was taken out of there in just a few years during the 1800s, but it can't compare to the excitement, I think, that's being felt throughout the Rockies right now. There are thousands of people here who've come from around the world because the totality of the eclipse is to last here longer, perhaps, than anywhere else during the path of the totality. And as you can see, it's getting very dark. With me is Dan Nelson, who's president of the local astronomical society. Dan, this is amazing.
It's happening very quickly, too. It's really overtaking us. We'll soon be in totality here, and you can see things darkening down Very fascinating color changes going on around us.
The street lights have just come on, and the temperature continues to drop. I know Dan wants to go take
Ron?
his pictures. Frank?
Ron, wave your right hand. Let's see if we can still see you.
Have we disappeared?
Yes, you're just about to go away. Ah, the lights are coming on.
Oh, Frank, this is amazing. It's happening so quickly. Dan, go take your pictures.
It's going to be nighttime soon.
These are the lights of Helena, Montana. What's with the actual eclipse itself? Have we got a chance to, any of our cameras working there? We're trying to find the sun, or the sun eclipsed by the moon.
Frank,
Go ahead, Ron.
Frank, this is absolutely amazing.
There it is.
There you can see it. The roar of the crowd has just gone up. This is just the most exciting thing I think I've ever participated in.
This is the best picture we've had yet. This is the best.
Frank, I can't tell you how lucky we are. There have just been thousands of people running around the Rocky Mountains, going as much as 400 and 500 miles during the night, trying to find a hole in the clouds. We were told there'd be a total cloud cover here, and as you can see, somebody's on our side this morning.
I think I see the diamond ring effect at 6 o'clock and again at 11.
I think
or 10. No, it's 11. Oh, gee, that is really something. And your clouds have cleared, Ron, just in time, eh?
You know, Frank, up until 4 or 5 minutes ago, there was an entire cloud cover across the sun. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know how this has happened. And I think we're going to have a clear shot at the eclipse throughout its totality of about 2.5 minutes. As I mentioned, there's a path of about 170 miles that is now experiencing this darkness through Montana. And in just a short time, the eclipse will be moving on through the Dakotas and then into Canada. The light here is eerie. It's yellowish gray on the horizon. And I just hope that those people who've traveled through the Rocky Mountains all night are enjoying this eclipse as much as we are here.
Well, I'm quite sure that they are. Gee, after making all that effort to get to a place where even just a few clouds could blot out a sight that, we must remind you again, will not be seen on this continent in this century, not until, let's see, what is it, August 21st, 2017 or so?
You know, Frank,
we'll be able to see another one.
Mentioning that kind of time span, I was talking to a scientist who said on the average an eclipse will happen in the same place perhaps every 360 years. And I was just wondering, thinking about what this area was like 360 years ago. A few French trappers, Crow and Blackfeet Indians, and now we have people running around the Rockies in their cars trying to find it. I wonder what it's going to be 300 years from now.
You wonder what the reaction was of the people who saw it, too, at that time.
Precisely.
Gee. The sun worship that was so prevalent at that time. Now it's beginning to move away, isn't it, Ron?
Yes,
there's
now,
the diamond
now
ring.
The city is coming to light again. Isn't that amazing? It's just absolutely...
We've lost it.
Well, I hope that those thousands of people who are to the east of us have enjoyed such a fantastic sighting as we just have.
We're seeing the moon now begin to move across the face of the sun, so that the eclipse is no longer total over Helena, Montana. Well, we've seen Portland in the daylight. We've seen it dark. Let's see if we can see Portland once again, quickly. See if it's become light there again. Can we do that? Hey, there we are. Welcome back to daylight, Portland. So that's it, the last solar eclipse to be seen on this continent in this century. And as I said, not until August 21st, 2017, will another eclipse be visible from North America. That's 38 years from now. May the shadow of the moon fall on a world at peace. And ABC News, of course, will bring you a complete report on that next eclipse, 38 years from now. I want to thank everybody involved in this magnificent undertaking. It's been just great. We've had a lot of fun. This is Frank Reynolds in New York, and we'll have a complete report on the World News tonight.
The Solar Eclipse, an ABC News special, was brought to you by American Express Traveler's Checks. Don't leave home without them. This has been a presentation of ABC News.
Tuesday on the ABC News Magazine 2020, Why Howard Hughes Died, an investigative report by Geraldo Rivera. I'll show you things about Howard Hughes you've never seen before. You may have heard how Howard Hughes lived. I'll show you how and why he died.
And Dave Barish in a $60 billion water grab. All this and host Hugh Downs on 2020.